What if the reason relationships feel so unstable today isn't because people have become harder to love? What if the real reason is something far quieter, something most people never question? The possibility that we've made relationships our purpose. Think about it for a moment. From a young age, many of us are taught that finding the right person will complete our life. Movies glorify it. Social media celebrates it. Friends constantly talk about it. The message becomes clear. Find someone. Fall in love. Build your life around them. And slowly, without even realizing it, we begin structuring our identity around another person. Our happiness depends on them. Our sense of worth depends on them. Even our daily motivation begins revolving around them. But here is the silent danger. When your life becomes centered around someone else, you slowly start losing the center of yourself. Imagine a man who pours all his energy into a relationship. His schedule revolves around his partner. His goals fade into the background. His ambitions slowly shrink. At first it feels like love, but over time, something subtle changes. His confidence weakens. His independence fades. His sense of direction disappears. And strangely enough, the very thing he tried to hold on to begins slipping away. Because attraction is not built on dependency, it is built on direction. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood something that modern culture often forgets. A person must first learn to stand firmly on their own path before walking beside someone else. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that a person's life should be guided by their own purpose and virtue, not by external validation and relationships, no matter how meaningful, are still external. This doesn't mean relationships aren't valuable. They absolutely are. But when they become the center of your existence rather than a part of it, something fundamental shifts. Instead of living a life that attracts people naturally, you begin chasing connection out of emptiness. And people can feel that the quiet truth is this: the most attractive individuals are rarely those searching desperately for love. They are the ones building something meaningful. They are moving toward a goal. They are focused on growth. They have direction. And that direction creates something incredibly powerful: purpose. So the real question is not, how do I find the perfect relationship? The real question is something deeper. What kind of life am I building? Because when your life has purpose, relationships stop being something you chase. They become something that naturally appears along the journey. And this leads us to the first trap most people fall into without realizing it: the trap of chasing love itself. There is a quiet trap many people fall into when it comes to relationships. And the most dangerous part is that it rarely feels like a trap. It feels like hope. It begins with a simple belief: if I find the right person, everything in my life will finally feel complete. At first, this idea seems harmless. After all, humans naturally crave connection. We want companionship, understanding, and emotional closeness. But over time, something subtle begins to happen. Instead of building a meaningful life and allowing relationships to grow alongside it, many people start building their entire identity around the pursuit of love itself. They begin measuring their worth by attention, how quickly someone replies to their messages, how much affection they receive, how often they are reassured. Their emotional state becomes tied to another person's reactions. If the partner is warm and attentive, they feel secure. But if the partner becomes distant, distracted, or busy, anxiety begins to grow. Suddenly, their peace of mind is no longer in their own control. It belongs to someone else. This is the hidden, psychological trap of chasing love. Because when a relationship becomes your primary source of identity, it creates pressure that the relationship was never meant to carry. Instead of two independent people walking side by side, the dynamic slowly shifts. One person begins leaning emotionally on the other, and the more someone leans, the heavier the connection becomes. But here's something many people don't realize. Human attraction often fades when it senses emotional dependency. Not because people are cruel, but because attraction naturally thrives in the presence of strength, stability, and individuality. When someone appears to have their entire happiness tied to another person, it can quietly erode the sense of mystery and independence that initially created attraction. Stoic philosophy warned about this long before modern psychology studied it. The Stoics believed that relying too heavily on external things, whether it's wealth, status, or even another person's approval, creates emotional vulnerability. Because external things can change at any moment. People can leave, circumstances can shift, feelings can evolve. But when your sense of purpose comes from within, from your values, your growth, and your direction, you remain stable regardless of what happens around you. This is why people who focus entirely on finding love often feel frustrated. The harder they chase connection, the more it seems to slip away. Not because love is impossible, but because love is rarely attracted to desperation. It is attracted to wholeness, to people who already have something meaningful in their lives, people who are moving towards something bigger than validation. Which raises an important question. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers observed something about human nature that still holds true today. Most of our suffering does not come from events themselves. It comes from our attachment to things we cannot control. People, approval, status, relationships. The Stoics believed that when we tie our happiness to external things, we place our emotional stability in fragile hands. Because external things are never permanent. A person may love you today and change tomorrow. Someone may admire you now and forget you later. This doesn't make people unreliable. It simply means that human emotions are constantly evolving. And if your sense of identity is built on something that constantly changes, your inner peace will always feel unstable. This is why Stoic thinkers placed so much emphasis on inner control. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that true strength comes from focusing only on what is within your power, your actions, your character, your purpose, not the opinions of others, not the affection of others, and not the outcomes you cannot control. Another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, explained it even more directly. He taught that freedom begins the moment you stop depending on external validation for your sense of worth. This idea may sound simple, but its impact is profound, because when a person becomes emotionally dependent on a relationship, they unknowingly give away their inner stability. Their mood depends on someone else's behavior. Their confidence depends on someone else's attention. And slowly, Their identity becomes shaped by someone else's approval. But the Stoics offered a different path. Instead of asking, "Who will love me?" they asked a far more powerful question: "Who am I becoming?" Because when you focus on becoming someone with discipline, purpose, and direction, something interesting begins to happen. Your sense of value no longer depends on someone choosing you. It comes from the life you are building. And when that shift occurs, relationships stop being a source of anxiety. They become a natural extension of your journey. A person with purpose does not chase validation. They are too focused on their path. They are building something, learning something, creating something. And ironically, this inner stability creates a quiet kind of attraction. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind that tries to impress everyone in the room, but the calm, grounded presence that people instinctively trust. Because purpose gives a person direction, and direction gives a person confidence, which leads to a fascinating realization. The most attractive people are often not the ones searching for attention. They are the ones moving toward something meaningful. There is something quietly powerful about a person who has direction in their life. You may have noticed it before. They walk differently. They speak with calm certainty. They don't seem desperate for attention. And strangely, people tend to notice them more. Not because they are trying to impress anyone, but because they are focused on something bigger than approval. This is the quiet magnetism of purpose. Purpose changes the way a person carries themselves. When someone is deeply invested in building something meaningful, whether it's their work, their growth, their mission, or their craft, they naturally develop a sense of direction. And direction creates stability. Think about the difference between two people. The first person spends most of their time worrying about how others perceive them. They constantly check messages, overanalyze conversations, and seek reassurance in relationships. Their emotional energy is scattered. The second person is focused on building a meaningful life. They are working on their goals, improving their skills, learning new things, and pushing themselves forward. Their energy has direction, and that difference is noticeable. Humans are naturally drawn to individuals who appear grounded and purposeful. It signals strength, independence, and emotional stability, not arrogance, not coldness, but quiet. Self-assurance. This is why people who are deeply focused on their mission often attract attention without actively seeking it. They are not trying to prove their value. Their actions already demonstrate it psychologically. Purpose also creates something incredibly attractive: scarcity of attention. When someone has meaningful priorities in their life, their time and energy become valuable. They are not constantly available. They are not waiting around for validation. They have things to build, things to pursue, and paradoxically, this makes their presence feel more meaningful when they do engage with others, because people instinctively respect those who respect their own time and direction. But purpose does something even deeper than creating attraction. It creates independence, and independence transforms the entire dynamic of relationships. Because when you have something meaningful driving your life, you stop needing someone else to complete it. You already have a path, which leads us to one of the most powerful qualities a person can develop, the energy of independence. There is a certain kind of energy that comes from a person who knows they can stand on their own. It is not loud, it is not arrogant, and it does not seek attention. It is quiet, steady, grounded. This is the energy of independence. When someone has a clear purpose guiding their life, they no longer depend on constant reassurance from others to feel secure. Their sense of identity is rooted in their values, their discipline, and the direction they are moving toward. Because of this, their emotional stability becomes internal rather than external. Think about how different this feels in a relationship. When a person lacks direction, they often look to their partner to fill emotional gaps. They need constant validation, constant closeness, constant reassurance that they are loved. But this kind of dependence, slowly, creates pressure. The relationship becomes less about sharing life and more about maintaining emotional balance. And, over time, that weight can become exhausting for both people. Independence changes this dynamic completely. When someone has their own mission, their own growth, and their own goals, they bring something healthier into the relationship. Emotional stability. They don't rely on their partner to fix their insecurities. They don't panic when space naturally appears. They don't feel threatened by independence. Instead, they contribute to the relationship from a place of fullness, rather than emptiness. This is one of the core ideas emphasized by the Stoic philosopher Seneca. He believed that a wise person does not depend on external things for happiness. They can enjoy relationships deeply, but their inner peace does not collapse if those relationships change. This mindset creates a powerful form of confidence, not the kind that tries to dominate others, but the kind that quietly communicates. I value connection, but I am not lost without it. And this kind of independence is deeply attractive, because when someone is comfortable standing alone, their relationships become a choice rather than a necessity. They are not holding on to people out of fear. They are sharing their life out of genuine appreciation. Ironically, this mindset often strengthens attraction rather than weakening it, because people naturally respect those who respect themselves. But there is an interesting paradox hidden inside this idea. The moment you stop chasing attention, people often begin noticing you more. There is a strange paradox when it comes to attraction. The harder someone tries to gain attention, the less attractive they often appear. But the moment they stop chasing it, people begin to notice them more. At first, this may seem confusing. Why would stepping back create more interest? The answer lies in something subtle about human psychology. When someone constantly seeks attention, approval, or reassurance, it signals emotional dependency. Their actions begin to communicate a hidden message. My happiness depends on you. And while this may seem romantic on the surface, it often creates an invisible pressure in the relationship. Because when someone feels responsible for another person's emotional stability, attraction can slowly turn into obligation. An obligation rarely sustains genuine desire. But something very different happens when a person becomes focused on their own path. When someone has purpose, goals, and direction guiding their life, they stop centering their energy around being noticed. They are not trying to impress anyone. They are simply living. And this creates a sense of emotional freedom around them. Instead of demanding attention, they allow space. Instead of chasing connection, they let it develop naturally. This is why people who are deeply engaged in their own growth often appear more attractive. Not because they are trying to be mysterious, but because their attention is invested. Elsewhere, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once emphasized that we should focus our energy only on what we can control: our actions, our discipline, and our character. Everything else, including how others feel about us, lies outside our control. When someone truly understands this, they stop trying to manipulate outcomes. They stop trying to force attraction. Instead, they focus on becoming someone worth knowing. And this mindset quietly changes how others perceive them. Confidence begins to show in small ways, in the way they speak calmly rather than anxiously, in the way they pursue their goals without constantly seeking validation, in the way they remain steady regardless of external reactions. And this steadiness creates intrigue, because people are naturally curious about individuals who appear comfortable within themselves. But this paradox reveals an even deeper truth. Attraction grows most naturally when a person is building a life that feels meaningful to them. A life that does not revolve around being chosen, but around becoming. And this leads to the most practical question of all. Purpose is often misunderstood. Many people imagine it as something dramatic, some grand destiny waiting to be discovered. But in reality, purpose is rarely found in a single moment of clarity. It is built slowly through daily choices, discipline, and the willingness to move towards something meaningful even when the path is uncertain. A purpose-driven life does not appear overnight. It grows through consistent effort. Think about the individuals who naturally attract respect and interest from others. When you look closely, it's rarely because they are trying to be attractive. It's because they are deeply engaged in building something. It might be their career, their craft, their business, their creativity, their personal growth, or even their commitment to becoming a better, stronger version of themselves. They are not waiting for motivation. They are creating momentum. This is what gives their life direction. 9 Direction gives a person presence. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that life should be spent fulfilling one's duty and improving one's character, not chasing approval, not chasing comfort, but focusing on meaningful action. So, how do you begin building a purpose-driven life? It starts with a few simple but powerful shifts. First, focus on growth rather than validation. Instead of asking, "Do people like me?" start asking, "Am I improving? Are you learning new skills? Are you developing discipline? Are you challenging yourself?" Growth creates confidence far more reliably than approval ever could. Second, invest in meaningful work. Your purpose does not have to be world-changing. It simply needs to matter to you. It could be building your career, creating something valuable, helping others, mastering a skill. What matters is that it gives your life direction. Third, build discipline. Purpose without action is just a vague idea. Real purpose shows itself through consistent habits. Waking up early, working on your goals, staying committed even when motivation fades. Discipline transforms intention into identity. And over time, something fascinating begins to happen. When your life becomes filled with meaningful effort, you stop worrying as much about who is paying attention. You stop chasing approval because your focus has shifted toward building something real. And ironically, this is exactly when people begin noticing you more. Not because you tried to attract them, but because a life filled with purpose naturally becomes interesting. But there is an important balance here, even when purpose becomes your foundation. Relationships still play an important role in life. The key difference is understanding where they belong. When two people come together in a relationship, something beautiful can happen. They share experiences. They support each other through challenges. They grow together. But this kind of healthy connection only happens when both individuals already have a strong foundation within themselves. The problem begins when a relationship becomes the foundation of someone's entire life. When this happens, the relationship is no longer just a bond between two people. It becomes a source of identity, a source of emotional stability, a source of purpose, and that is a responsibility no relationship can sustainably carry. Think of it like a house. If the entire structure of your life is built on a single pillar, another person, then the moment that pillar shifts, everything else begins to collapse. Your confidence shakes, your direction disappears, your sense of self becomes uncertain. But when your life already has multiple pillars, purpose, discipline, personal growth, values, and meaningful work relationships become something much healthier. They become a complement, not a foundation. This means you are not entering the relationship to fill an emotional void. You are entering it to share a life that is already meaningful. And this changes everything. Instead of asking your partner to constantly validate your worth, you bring your own sense of identity into the connection. Instead of depending on them for direction, you walk beside them while pursuing your own path. This idea aligns closely with the philosophy of the Stoic thinker Seneca. He believed that while relationships can bring joy and companionship, a wise person should never lose their independence within them. Because when two independent individuals come together, the relationship becomes stronger. There is less pressure, less insecurity, less emotional dependence. Both people support each other's growth rather than trying to control each other's happiness. In this kind of dynamic, attraction feels natural rather than forced, because both individuals respect each other's independence. They are not together out of fear of loneliness. They are together because they genuinely enjoy sharing their journey, and this creates something incredibly powerful: mutual admiration. When someone sees that you have your own path, your own ambitions, and your own direction, it creates respect, not the temporary excitement of attention, but the deeper attraction that comes from recognizing strength of character. And when purpose becomes the center of your life, something else begins to develop naturally. A calm and grounded kind of confidence. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. There is a certain confidence that cannot be faked. It doesn't come from motivational speeches. It doesn't come from pretending to be strong. And it certainly doesn't come from seeking approval. It comes from living with purpose. When someone spends their days moving toward meaningful goals, something inside them begins to change. Their mind becomes calmer, their actions become more intentional, and slowly, a quiet sense of certainty begins to develop. They no longer question their worth every time someone ignores them. They no longer feel shaken by temporary rejection, because their identity is no longer built on being accepted by others. It is built on the life they are creating. This is the quiet confidence of purpose. It is not loud or attention-seeking. In fact, many people who possess it rarely talk about it at all. You can see it in how they handle situations. When things go wrong, they remain steady. When people disagree with them, they remain composed. When relationships change, they adapt without losing themselves. This kind of emotional stability is deeply attractive, not because it impresses people, but because it signals something rare. Inner strength. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often wrote about this idea in his private reflections. He reminded himself that external events, whether praise or criticism, should never determine a person's inner state, because a person's true value lies in their character and their actions, not in how others respond to them. When someone truly understands this principle, their behavior begins to change in subtle but powerful ways. They stop overthinking every conversation. They stop chasing reassurance. They stop trying to control how others perceive them. Instead, their energy returns to where it belongs, their own path. They invest their time in growth. They focus on building something meaningful. They strengthen their discipline, and as they continue walking that path, confidence begins to grow naturally, not because they forced it, but because purpose creates clarity, and clarity removes insecurity.